It's time for Two Guys and a Goalie with Dustin Nielson, Matt Kassian, and the goalie, Joaquin Gage.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Two Guys and a Goalie, brought to you by Coolbet Canada. It's Nielson, it's Gager, it's Cass wearing a toque inside. I love that look, Cass. Gage and Salas at TSN 1260. Cass, the blanket thing was keeping you warm for a while. Now you need to go to a toque. What's going on here, buddy?
I just haven't done my hair. It's messy, and I need to shower. So
yeah,
look at that.
Put that toque back on, buddy.
Put it back on.
Put that toque back on. That's not a great look. If you're watching on the live stream, subscribe to the podcast. Also, if you're watching the live stream, feel free to chime in at any time as well. We'll try to answer some of your questions if we do get them. Coolbet Canada, visit them at coolbet.com. Fastest payouts in the industry. Interact e-transfer for withdrawals and deposits. They'll beat any odds you find anywhere else. Stay cool, bet responsibly. Chris Abbott, Canadian manager of Coolbet, will join us a little bit later on. Obviously, he'll have some hot takes on the Oilers and the Maple Leafs, as do we, and we'll dive into that. We'll get to it and we got to talk about it, but let's just start with the game last night, Gager. I thought they were playing well coming into this series, and then they lose game one. I was a little nervous if they bounce back. I wasn't sure. I was uncertain, I guess, would be better than the term nervous. But then I thought they would bounce back in the third game, and they didn't. So what went wrong last night? Are you concerned at all from what you saw in these three games against the Leafs?
Yeah, I am concerned because the lack of intestinal fortitude to come back in those games and show something resembling anything. I was I was hopeful because of that game against Vancouver, going down to that 3-0 lead to Vancouver and coming back in that game. I thought that showed a lot of resolve that this Oilers team that we haven't seen in a long time. It kind of looked like that team from a year ago. If they got down and things didn't go their way, it was almost like they just wanted to wait till next game and see how it went. But I mean, the Leafs played great. They played really good. They played a stifling defensive game. They got in the face of the Oilers' best players, made it very difficult, and took advantage of their chances. Their goalies outdueled the Oilers goalies over 3 games. But I think it's a good test going forward. I mean, there's no more of a simulation during the regular season to have 3 games against the same team, just like it would be in a playoff series. So really good to get that kind of experience out of the way when things go bad, something to draw upon. If they get to the playoffs and they're down 2, they can go back. Oh gosh, yeah, this is how that felt. We can and hopefully come back from it. So it's not a huge surprise, but no, just down in a valley, peaks and valleys throughout the season. We'll see what happens next.
Cass, what'd you think last night, buddy?
It was ugly. It was ugly. And what's disappointing to me is like the first 5 to 10 minutes are so encouraging, like where they start and it's like, yes, they got the juice today. And then it just falls off a cliff. So it was disappointing. Like I'm not freaking out about the season here. They just finished a really good stretch of games. And now they just had a really bad short stretch of games against a really good team that's playing really well. Like Toronto played full 60 minutes every single game. And I'm hoping, if anything, the Oilers can take from that listen, if you want to be the best team in this division, and if you want to have a chance at competing for a Stanley Cup, you have to play a full 60 minutes and you have to do it night in and night out. But overall, yeah, it was ugly. It didn't seem like there was a lot of pushback from the Oilers. And it really seemed like, the second that Toronto scored in each of those games that they just folded, and that you can't have happen. Is not just in this series like this, but even more so, like as Gager said, it's kind of like a little playoff series or a preview of it. And if you fold when another team scores first in the playoffs, well, guess what? You're not going to be in the playoffs very long. So yeah, it was disappointing. Hopefully they learned something from it. Season's not over. All is not lost, but yeah, a pretty ugly chunk of games.
Hernan, what was the reaction like on the post game last night?
Yeah, there's a range of emotions from trade McDavid to fire Kenny Holland to bring in a goalie, go out and get Raquel. But I'll be honest, the majority were like guys like they're coming off a very good February. You don't fluke into 11 wins out of 13 games. So I think a lot of the fans were like, it was ugly. We get it. They didn't show up. Toronto's a very good team. But you take the good from the Oilers from February and they'll turn this around. So like I said, you get the few crazies there that want to blow it up right away. But the majority were disappointed, but they're still hopeful that this team is more of the team we saw in February than these last 3 games.
I was dealing with text messages like back to back. We had like 800 text messages on the show this morning. Like people were fired up, and rightfully so. I understand where they're coming from. So I was dealing with text messages back to back that one of them saying the offense is an absolute mess. That's the major issue. You can't blame goaltending. And then I've got other people saying this offense isn't going to be able to do anything when the goaltending sucks the life out of them so early in games. So Gager, with this team personally right now for me, I mean, I think they can score goals. They were one of the highest scoring teams in the league coming into this 3-game set. The Leafs just did a really good job against them. McDavid was held pointless for 3 games. I didn't think I would ever say that at any point, and I don't think we'll say that again. If you had to weigh the issues here one way or the other, Gager, what are you looking at?
I look at it, well, obviously I'm going to look at it from the goaltending standpoint where, like I said before, they got outdueled by the Leafs backups. I think right now Freddie Anderson is third on the depth chart in Toronto according to his last 3 games, right? So it's just ridiculous. But there are points in the game where you need to make that save, and it's the air letting out of a balloon half the time when some of these goals go in. I think that should be stopped. Especially when you're playing against a team like the Leafs, like you have to get elite goaltending against the best teams in the league. You have to take a few goals away from them as well, and those, I think a lot of those pucks were stoppable. And I mean, it's a bad reaction to see the team kind of like Cass said, just all the emotions just right out. And it's like, oh man, they scored. That's how it looks like when they're going to the bed. There's like a lot of times other teams get scored on. You see that bounce back shift where it goes right back into the other zone, right? It just was just consistently just not having the juice. And maybe it changes if they score like those first 5-6 minutes. It does look good, but I mean, woulda, coulda, shoulda. Like you're not going to score on everything. You got to keep going. Goaltending really has to be better, way better.
All right, well, let's just stick to this. Let's dive right into. We got to talk about it because Chris Abbott's going to join us here in about 5-10 minutes, and I want to get to a couple of these topics before he pops by. I'm going to get to the top 6 here in a second, but let's stick with the goaltending, Gager. What do we got to talk about, buddy?
Well, I think as soon as he gets through quarantine and gets some reps in practice, we have to see what Mr. Stalock can do. He played really, really well last year in the bubble, like taking over from Devin Dubnyk. Oilers need something, and looking at the past year, I don't think you can rely completely on Mike Smith and Mikko. I'm interested to see what you guys think about if Stalock does come in and play well. Do you start riding this guy and seeing what he can do? I mean, I would even if Stalock comes in and starts playing really well, do you throw Mikko on the taxi squad and hope that someone grabs him and takes that contract away if he goes through? But I know in a weird world, maybe. I mean, if you see a couple teams with goalie injuries, maybe that does happen. Who knows, right? But I think Mikko's days, he might get one more shot at this. I know he's got another year, but gosh, if Mr. Stalock can come in and play well, that's who I'm going with for sure.
Even in a make-believe world like WandaVision, Koskinen's not getting claimed. No way. Hernan, I want you to take this one because I know you got a hot take when it comes to Stalock.
I do, and I was telling Tommy yesterday. I said this with Forsberg at the start, but we all know what happened there. But It's a hot take. I don't take it with a grain of salt, I guess, but I think Stalock will be the go-to guy come April. I think once he's through that quarantine, they're going to look at him. He's 33 years old. He's coming off his best year. I know he had the heart condition and he was off to start, but he's healthy. He's ready to go. And I think he's going to push these two guys because the Edmonton's goaltending is a roller coaster right now. You never know if Mike Smith or Mikko Koskinen are going to be spectacular. They're going to be mediocre. They're going to be bad. You just never know. Like for Saturday, guys, you can't tell me who you think is going to start and how they're going to perform because we just don't know. So I truly think Alex Stalock's going to get a long and a good look here in Edmonton to see if he can run with this. And I'm with Gager. Like we talked about it yesterday on the postgame show as well, where you put Koskinen on waivers, whatever. No one's picking him up. And then, like, let's be realistic here because Tommy was like, well, you can't afford to lose him because then you're stuck. What if one of the top two guys gets hurt? I'm like, yeah, but the risk of Koskinen getting claimed are so minimal that I think you almost have to do that. So, listen, Stalock's got what, like 10, 11 days to go, but I think we're going to see him here towards the end of the month to see what he can do.
Oh, we definitely will. No way Koskinen gets claimed. No chance whatsoever.
Unless Peter Chiarelli is secretly running another organization, there's no chance of that happening.
You know what? You just brought up a very valid point, Dusty. So he definitely is going to get claimed.
Isn't he with St. Louis?
I said it this morning on Scalding Hot Takes that Alex Stalock in quarantine is like a inmate on death row waiting for the needle or the chair. Like when he sees that 2-on-0 last night, he's like, "Woo! Can't wait to get in there." Cass, do you think he can be steady enough to take a job? Like, do you think that actually happens?
Like a goalie be steady enough to take someone's job?
Stalock be steady enough to take a job. Yeah,
absolutely, he can. Like when Koskinen's playing really well, he's a good goalie. When Mike Smith is playing really well, he's a good goalie. The issue at times, and we were hoping it wasn't going to be an issue, but we've seen it the last couple of days, is that you go from up here to down here, and then you go to up here. And then you go to down here, and that is an issue because you can't have that kind of manic fluctuation in terms of quality of play. Like you just can't. Stalock is on the contract that Koskinen probably should have been on in terms of dollar value, and so you're going to have a guy that does have some NHL experience. It's got some playoff experience. Going to come in, and I think he could be stable. It gets pushed out by a goalie tandem in Minnesota where they want a young guy who's a goalie of the future, and they got they paid someone a little bit more in Talbot from a starter standpoint, and so he just was the odd man out in that situation. And then they're trying to work with some cap management where they put him on waivers. But Stalock's he's a bona fide NHL goalie now. Is he top half in the league? No, but if he gives you more consistency. So maybe let me ask you this. Would you, all three of you, as a coach or a GM or a player, would you rather have a goalie who's going to be pretty good consistently? Or would you have a goalie who some nights is going to be amazing and some nights is just going to be absolute trash? Like, which of the two would you prefer in a goalie?
With the Oilers, and the way they are, I would rather have all I want Stalock to do is just not let the bad one in. The sighing goal that you allowed, and that's what's killing the Oilers right now. It's just, gosh, that's a puck that needs to be stopped at that particular time. If it's a 2-on-0 and or someone makes a great play and goes bar down, that's a little bit different. But when it's from the corner or just a backhand from the tops of the circles, like it's so hard for a team to, especially when you're playing against another team that's playing so well, for your goalie to allow that goal, and all of a sudden, we're pushing a car up a hill with a wet rope. It doesn't work.
Is there any way? Let me ask this before we bring in Chris Abbott from CoolBet. Is there any way that because I know a lot of people were like, well, Mike Smith, he's only in this game still because Tippett likes him. There, he should have brought Koskinen. It's a message to Koskinen. I think the message to Koskinen was that you're starting on Saturday. Is there any way Koskinen doesn't start on Saturday, Cass?
Yeah. Dave Tippett decides he wants to go with Mike Smith.
There's no way.
Koskinen should have started last game. Mike
Okay,
Smith
I'm not disagreeing with you on that.
Game.
Come on, but there's no way he's starting.
Really?
I don't think so. I'd be shocked
It's
if Mike
against
Smith
his old
starts.
team, and he battles out there. He brings some intangibles, and he does to the dressing room.
No way.
It's his old team. Like Mike Smith played for the Flames. You're going to want that emotional. Here's the actually reason why I think we could see Mike Smith start on Saturday, although it should be Koskinen, is it's his old team. And I think what you need if you're the Edmonton Oilers is you need emotion heading into this one. Like they're at the point where the Flames were a couple weeks ago, where it was like they were just playing with no emotion. They were really fragile. Like if a team scored first on them, they were done. And the Oilers are in that mindset right now. And so I think with Mike Smith, Dave Tippett might look at it and say, we need a little bit of fire here. So I'm going to keep Mike Smith in. So I think it's actually very realistic that we see him on Saturday.
Gager?
Who gives you the better chance to win on Saturday? Which goalie gives you the best chance to win? I know it's close, but
Stalock. Go next.
Let's ask Chris. Maybe we can get some odds on who's going to start in goal on Saturday for the Oilers.
Yeah.
That would be
all right.
that would be good.
I'll bring in Chris. I'm going to bring in Chris and let you guys chat. I'm going to reset because I think I'm delayed right now. So you guys chat with Chris about Oilers goaltending, and I'm just going to disconnect quickly. If everybody gets lost here, we'll be right back. Okay, but go ahead with Chris, boys.
Chris,
I actually got one. Oh no,
go
go ahead. Go ahead, Gager. I got one, but it's about a prop bet I want to see if we can do something with. So Gager, you start.
I just wanted to know is in Toronto, are they calling for Freddie Anderson out of the three this weekend or this week?
Oh, well, you're talking about the Toronto goaltending factory now. It's not Finland anymore. It's downtown Toronto.
Yeah.
Goaltending factory. Yeah, I don't even know who their goalie coach is, but he's the new guru. I mean, to go to his summer camp is going to be an unbelievable cost this year. But I mean, listen, it was a spanking. I actually thought Jack Campbell played very, very well in his outing, and he hasn't gotten a chance in the league. He could be a number one goalie someday, I think. He was great in junior. He had to play behind Jonathan Quick and a not so great LA team while he was there. And then, when he's gotten his chance in Toronto, he's been pretty good. So I think that's something the Leafs do have going for them for the first time in a long time, is a couple of reliable goaltenders, apparently 3 now. Obviously it's the opposite in Edmonton. And I wonder how much, like, I know you guys have probably already talked about it, but how much can you really hang on the goaltenders there? Like, I mean, Mike Smith is good for like a quirky one per night, but that's what you get with a guy who plays the way he does. I don't know. I don't know if you can.
Off the gear and get down to Rogers Place, and that's people are really dying for some goaltending if they want to see me back in net. It's not a pretty sight. So, but yeah, no, I was really I was so impressed with Campbell. I was impressed with all of them actually to come in and play the way they did. And I mean, we've been talking just before about how important it is to make those early saves early on. Like, it's just like a big hit. It's a fight. It's a good goal. When a goalie makes a big save or takes a goal away from the other team, it does wonders.
And here's something else with this Toronto success that doesn't get enough play. Like, if you think back a couple of years ago with all these quote unquote great Toronto teams that were, failing them in the playoffs, they were asking Dion Phaneuf, Morgan Riley, Jake Gardiner to be like top pairing guys. And now you got a guy like TJ Brody and you got a guy like Jake Muzzin who, just settle things down back there. And it allows a Morgan Rielly to play the kind of game that he plays rather than, having to shut down Connor McDavid. So I think, Toronto's found some things there. And, when you compare it to the Oilers, I remember Ray Ferraro, name drop, said to me earlier this season that he thought the Oilers were really, really going to miss Oscar Klefbom and in their own end and getting the puck out of their own end. And that's certainly, I think, been glaring lately too.
Yeah, it certainly could be. I got a question for you, Chris, because this is something that's been irking me and Gager in particular. So I wanted to see if this was something that could actually exist as a prop bet. Is there any way we could get like an over-under prop bet on how many times Oilers defensemen will be on their bellies over the course of a game? Because I think over the 3 games against Toronto, I think I counted 4 goals against where the Edmonton Oilers defenseman was on their stomach trying to do something. And I know 2 on Nylander in particular, where he just was like, oh, just going to wait a second, and then buries, and then, oh, I'm just going to wait a second and buries. But is that something that exists? Like, can we get an over-under on that?
I mean, we could definitely get a hypothetical one, and we do, like, to give you, like, the cut and dry answer, we do try and stay away from things that aren't quantifiable on the stat sheet. So, but hey, if we can get a belly flop column in there, like somewhere next to, Corsi or whatever, why not?
Let's do it. That'd be fun. I'd just be interested to see, like, I mean, I know no one's going to go through and count that like team to team, and some of it's coaching, but it just like even watching those games, like, can you think of, aside from maybe on Leon Draisaitl, like on a 2-on-1 where a guy laid down for Toronto, I can't remember which defenseman it was, but I think aside from that 2-on-1, I didn't see a single Toronto defender do that the entire 3 games. And it just speaks of guys not knowing where to go and being out of position to me. So anyways, yeah. I appreciate you entertaining my idea.
I agree with you, and it's just shocking to me as someone who's followed the Leafs the closest that we're talking about how their defense are doing it right and other teams aren't. Like it's absolutely shocking to me that we're having that conversation for sure. But I mean, the house must be on fire in Edmonton this morning, is it? Like that's a pretty tough stretch of games there.
Chris, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Hernán. It's all good, buddy.
Chris, I was just going to ask you, does it make me a bad bettor that I picked the Oilers in all 3 games? Because the first game, I'm like, they're riding hot, they'll win. And then the second one, I was like, they'll bounce back. And then the third one, I was like, there's no way they're getting swept, right? So, like, was I wrong to think that way?
No, it doesn't make you a bad bettor. It only makes you a bad bettor in hindsight, right? Like, everyone will tell you how stupid it was. But, like, we've got the running joke with Cass that the Leafs are going to win every game for the rest of the year. You've got to Chris. You've got to presume at some point they're going to lose in that 3-game set. And I know I'm with you, man. Like, I just because of the way they played those games in Toronto earlier this year, it's kind of seemed like, it was anyone's game and whatever. But it just kept getting away from the Oilers, and like early in this stretch. So, again, I think I tweeted last night, like, maybe at some point we've got to think like maybe the Leafs are a pretty good hockey team here, and the rest of the division isn't all bad, but the Leafs are making teams look bad. Which again, wait till they play Boston or the Islanders, I guess, or Carolina. It makes life tough on them. But right now, they're certainly the class of this division.
Chris, let me ask you this. What was it like for the book with the Leafs hammering the Oilers the way they did? Like, was that great news for Coolbet? Was it bad news for Coolbet? How did it play out for you guys?
I think the first night they played, like, we overall just got torched. But last night, people loaded up on Draisaitl, McDavid, Matthews, and Marner. And Jimmy Vesey got 2 goals. Like, who had Jimmy Vesey over 1.5 goals last night at like plus 45 million? So it actually worked out in the end, because I think people were leaning toward the under last night. People were looking for McDavid to go off, looking for Draisaitl to go off. Even Matthews coming back. Like, we had a Will McDavid and Matthews both score in this game. It was like plus 310. It was like free money. Like, absolutely, they're going to score. So yeah, it worked out pretty good for the book, like it usually does.
Yeah, it usually works out okay for a sport book, I think. At least you guys are transparent about it, which is great. Chris, appreciate the time, buddy. We'll catch up again.
Thanks for having me on, guys. Talk next week.
There we go. That is Chris Abbott from Coolbet Canada. All right, boys, let's continue with we got to talk about it. Cass, let's go with you, buddy. What are we going to talk about?
Yeah, I want. Did you guys see Alexander Ovechkin with the old?
Oh yeah,
the old spear to the jewels. And he doesn't get suspended, gets the maximum fine allowed underneath this CBA, gets 2 minutes for spearing. And I just think that is such utter garbage. Like, what kind of a deterrent is that? That, you spear a guy, you take what's essentially a weapon in your hands and you spear a guy in his child reproductive areas, and you get a little fine, and like, you really think Alexander Ovechkin cares about the fine? Like, do you really think that next time he's thinking about doing that, he's going to stop and go like, oh, I better not do this because they may fine me? No, absolutely not. I just like.
Uh-oh.
We lost him. He was just getting into the good stuff.
Good too. That was going to be really good too.
Yeah. Well, hopefully Cass can reconnect. I'll text him and tell him to reconnect. But Frederick, I don't ever want to see somebody, as a guy who has balls myself, get speared in their nuts. But Frederick was trying to fight Ovi. He wanted none of it. Then he was cross-checking. He was kind of asking for it, wasn't he, Gager?
Well, yeah, first of all, I'm fixed, so it doesn't really matter. But, I like the fact that as a star player, like if you it's very old school thinking. If something is just to create a little bit of extra room for yourself and just go a little bit crazy once in a while, it'll make guys think. Like, I remember my first couple years pro, it wasn't even that bad, but it was kind of the Wild West. If a skilled guy had someone do something to him, and it was at the beginning of the year, not that it's the beginning of the year, but he'd probably cross-check him in the face. The guy would spend a few hours on the dentist chair, and it just makes everyone else think, gosh, is it really worth 5 root canals trying to fight this guy? So, yeah, the fine, but also everyone's going to think twice about doing something to Ovi because, geez, maybe they don't have kids yet, or, well, hey, maybe you hate your kids and might be a good idea. So it's a free vasectomy.
Missed because it cut out. I was just went on like a huge rant, and I was like yelling and swearing and doing all the stuff you always want me to do.
The one time you're dropping F-bombs, you're saying
everywhere.
Nasty stuff, and we missed all of it.
We missed it. Listen, Chiasson gets a 1-game suspension for cross-checking somebody in the neck with no prior history. How is that any different than what Alexander Ovechkin did? Like, and I don't really care that he did it. I'm kind of like, yeah, he's like with Gage, he was trying to create some space for himself. This guy was annoying him. The guy wasn't leaving him alone, and so he did. He took matters into his own hands. So, like, I get it. I'm not like upset at Alexander Ovechkin for doing it. I just think that's such a horrible like deterrent. The NHL fines do absolutely nothing. Maybe what they look at for the next, series of CBA bargaining is you should have fines based on a player's salary. Like, that should be what determines the cap of it. Because, for someone like me, if you're going to fine me $5,000 for doing something with my league salary, like, I'm going to feel that. Like, I'm not making any money on that day. I'm losing money to play hockey on that day. But for Alexander Ovechkin, like, he's not even going to bat an eyelash at that. Like, have it scaled to a guy's salary, and then see if that works as a deterrent to people spearing other guys in the nuts.
That's a good idea. That's like, I think in Finland, if you get a speeding ticket, it's according to your annual salary. Because I remember when Teemu Selanne got a ticket, and someone was saying it was worth like $200,000 or something like that. That would that's a good one, Cass. That would be that's like the Oilers 50-50 if McDavid spears somebody. That's great.
Doesn't that lead to a bunch of broke people speeding around as fast as they can?
Yes. Yes, it does.
In Finland, there's a lot of shitty cars going really fast everywhere. Yeah, that's what it is.
Well, just the
100%.
everyone says they're a rally car. Then I guess that's what they do. Whatever.
Hernan Salas has been sitting still for 5 minutes, has not moved. It's incredible. Let's see if he can keep it going for the rest of the episode. He's going to try to reconnect, but he's having some issues. I don't know. There's something going on with the internet at my house, I think, today. Okay, I want to we got to talk about the Oilers' top six because we saw it last night. We saw Nuge, Draisaitl, Yamamoto. They did score the 1 goal. They had some really good shifts. As Cass said, I thought the whole team was buzzing early, and that was a big part of it. And then McDavid played with every other winger that was dressed last night. So I think Dave Tippett, if Cahoon can go on Saturday or whenever Cahoon can return, I think Tippett will go back to what he was running with for the majority of the time. Cass, what do you think he does?
I hate that he's breaking up, and I've been calling him the nudie line. And I will be very, very sad and very disappointed, but Connor McDavid's going to hate that he was jumping around playing with everybody. And even though they were the only line that scored and the only full, complete line that was even in that game, he's going to break up the nudies. And and to me, that's disappointing because I still can't believe it took like 25 games to get there, and then we're only going to get it for a game where they were playing, as a whole, the team wasn't playing very well and not having success. And so, yeah, if Cahoon's ready to go, he's going to play with Draisaitl and Yamamoto, and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins moves back up. But I'm going to be sad because I want to see more of that second line with the Nuge.
Hernan, you moved.
Yeah.
I'm back.
Welcome back, buddy. Welcome back. Gage, what were you going to say, man?
I refer to that line as the Ogopogo line, and that's because you think we see him. There was a sighting, and then it's a rumor, or people are talking about how they've seen it, and they're just not sure if it really exists, and it's going to go back to back under the water. It goes. I don't think we're going to see that. They're going to go. Tippett's going to go right back to how it was, the lineup he had during that stretch for sure. That's guaranteed with Mike Smith and net.
Hernan, quickly, we were just talking about the top six, and if we think Tippett, because McDavid was playing with everybody, if Cahoon is ready to go, do you think it's Cahoon, Draisaitl, and do you think he's going to go back to it?
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah. Because listen, it was 6-1. The dry line scored the goal, and I know at the game, their first shift was really good. They were in there for a good 40 seconds. They generated some chances, but I guess now you see why Tip doesn't want to go to it because, yeah, McDavid was on every line at the end of the day and really couldn't get going. It couldn't get anything going with either of the wingers he played with. So I think Dave Tippett's going to be like, I tried it, I showed everybody, and this is why we're going back to Nugent McDavid.
But that just doesn't make sense to me, Hernan. I'll tell you because maybe McDavid didn't have success because you kept throwing him with the kitchen sink. Like, why not let him go out there with Puljujarvi every time and keep someone consistent on the left wing for at least a period or two? Wouldn't you say that if you want McDavid to have success with somebody, like he needs some consistency with someone? That's why you have him with Ryan Nugent-Hopkins the whole time. Well, guess what? He's not going to get any opportunities to do it with someone else. You're never going to know because you just keep throwing him with everybody. Like, wouldn't you want to see him have like a Cahoon and a Puljujarvi and see some consistency for a game or two or three?
And yesterday it was early, guys. Like McDavid was double shifting early in that game when it was still 0-0. Like I know Lotai today was saying, like, why not try Ennis there for 4 or 5 games? Give him a look. Like he worked last year with McDavid in a short little span. So yeah, I agree with you, Cass. I just think Dave Tippett's gonna go back to what he feels comfortable with the duos, right?
Didn't it kind of work last night? Like they did score, right?
Yeah.
So, I said they were the only line that wasn't like they were even, and Puljujarvi was even too, and I think James Neal, but like they were the only complete line that was even on the team.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, yeah, it just doesn't make sense. If you split them up and no one scores, like that doesn't make any. You're not gonna win many games allowing 5-6 goals, but you're not going to win many without scoring either. And so you put them together, and all of a sudden at least they get one goal out of the three. I think you got to leave them together for just a little bit to see if something can happen, because they're not scoring any goals to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, and we're seeing some comments, lots of people are commenting this on the live stream. And if you're watching the live stream right now, subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss an episode. Ennis, McDavid, and Puljujarvi. Like Ennis, when he's out there on that Caroline, you can tell that Ennis has the skill. I mean, he's more skilled with the puck than Jujhar Khaira or Josh Archibald are. I like Archibald a lot, and Khaira's apparently hitting everything. They gave him 12 hits last night. But Tyler Ennis, and you saw him get up there and have a look with Connor McDavid. I think Tyler Ennis, if you're looking at other options, I think Ennis would probably be your best look. But I'd also be okay if they said, hey, here's Cahoon for 3 games. Let's see what happens. Not for 12 minutes. Like give him a couple of games. And maybe they can do that against the Calgary. Maybe they can do that against Ottawa. Maybe just against Toronto, nothing was working. So Tippett kept kind of rolling through things. So it would be a shame to just go away from that line just because of what happened in one game against the Leafs with everybody else. Like I think a McDavid, Puljujarvi, Ennis line could torch most of the division. I honestly think it could. So I think there's still some upside there, but I think Tippett will go back. If Cahoon's healthy, I think he'll go back to the original top 6 on Saturday. So we'll see how that plays out. All right. Hernan, what do we got to talk about, buddy?
Yeah. We all saw the post-game media yesterday. Draisaitl was a little edgy. The reporter was a little edgy with his question. I get the players' point of view. Like they're frustrated as hell and they got to go and answer questions. I get that. And Cass and Gage can probably speak more to it because they played in the pros. And then, I don't mind the question. Like, I just don't know what people judging the questions want. Like they just got their butts kicked in 3 straight games. You're going to ask Draisaitl what went wrong. He had a short answer, visibly frustrated. But then the follow-up, you could have left the part of, like, speaking of, I can't even remember what he said. Speaking of...
not good enough.
Speaking of not good enough, you probably could have left that part out 100%. I get it. And but I just... Listen, like, Draisaitl and McDavid, they do a good job most of the time facing the music and all that. And sometimes they're going to be short-answered, and I get that. But... for the fans out there criticizing, well, it's the Edmonton media with dumb questions. Well, no, like, what are you supposed to ask Draisaitl when they lose 3 straight games? What happened? You want to know that, right? So it's such a, it's interesting. It's just seeing the reaction today all over it. And I just want to say, like, being in those scrums, it's tough. You ask questions. Some are good, some are not so good. The players, for the most part here, do well. I'll say this, players will never leave a city because the media's questions. I don't think the media pushes any players out either. So we got to stop with that narrative. But again, guys, I just want to get your feedback, like where it was a short answer and then the reporter kind of takes a jab back because he's probably frustrated at the answer that he got. I see it from both point of views, but I'll be honest, Dusty, like reporters are not fans. And I think people have to understand that. They're reporting, covering a team. I mean,
for the most part. For the most part, I'll just say, I'm not going to come across as this Homer member of the media, especially right now. I don't even really want to discuss too much of this because I'll say this. It's everything about this market is passionate, right? Mm-hmm. The players, they want to win no matter what anybody says. They want to win. They're passionate about it. Fan base is obviously one of, if not the best in the league. They're passionate about it. And the media is extremely passionate about not so much the hockey team, but the job that they do as well, right? So I understand why they too get frustrated, but there's very much a Edmonton media versus the fans, Edmonton media versus the players. There is that vibe here. Like, I understand where it's coming from, and I understand both sides of it, to be honest with you. I've got a few things that I need to sort out on Monday when I see some of my fellow members of the media right now. Like, it's a very interesting market to be a part of for a few different reasons that I will tell on a podcast when I'm no longer in the Edmonton media. Let's just leave it at that right now. But it's, if I was in that situation, and I've asked a lot of people questions over the last 20 years. It doesn't matter. An interview in the National Hockey League is no different than an interview in soccer. It's no different than an interview in the Alberta Junior Hockey League. An interview is an interview. And when you ask a snarky question, you deserve a snarky answer. That's just treat others how you want to be treated. And if you can't understand why somebody would be frustrated after just getting shit kicked 13-1 over 3 games by the team that you were supposedly going to be battling with for first spot, then you deserve the answer that you got. I mean, and yeah, it's tough to go, I would assume, for all those guys who are there every day, who are actually beat reporters who cover the team, and it's their job to be there and ask these questions. I would think that it's hard to ask the same question all the time, especially when you've had to ask a lot of these questions for 10, 15, 20 years. So it's just a passionate market on every level. And I mean, Gager, you played here. Cash, you played in Ottawa, where I'm sure it was extremely passionate as well. What's that relationship like on the other side of it for you guys?
I mean, not that a lot of people talk to me online, more offline, but don't ask questions that you already know the answers to. That's like looking at the actual question, like it was, to me, that's something everyone knows. Like, or maybe just phrase it a little bit differently. That's how I look at it. And obviously it's a different, building a relationship with the media and the player. I think that's important too. And you have to read like 3 games against the same team, top teams going at it. You know they're not happy right now, right? Snarky comeback, but I think the question in the beginning could have been phrased a little bit better, but I didn't like the question to begin with because it didn't. Everyone knew that already. Like, I would have rather ask the question of how did it happen? What made the other team so successful against the reigning Hart Trophy winner, right? Like something like, I don't know. Like, I just thought it was a bad question.
I agree with you, Gage. I didn't think it was a very good question. No, Leon still has to respond appropriately to that. Even if it is a bad question, you can handle it well. And what does the saying go? It's not what you say, it's how you say it. And you could easily port that over and say, it's not what you ask, it's how you ask it. Is you can ask those questions, but you have to be cognizant of the emotional state of the person you were asking it in. So, both sides, I think there's issues there, like where, should have been asked better. The question should have been responded to, even if it was asked poorly by Leon. Like there's stuff, there's a give and take there. And to me, that's always what it is with the media. Like for the players, you have to realize that this is an entertainment business. Yes, it's a sport you love. Yes, it's a sport you're part of, but it is an entertainment business ultimately. And the media as an athlete and as an organization is a tool to be able to entertain people and to be able to have them invested in and involved in your career and your role in your team as you're an athlete. So for me, it was always like, I don't, not saying the media are tools, but saying you can the relationship is a tool that you have in order to communicate and to involve people in it. And so there definitely always has to be a give and take to it. However, I will say that in my experience through my years of pro hockey, there were reporters who asked questions well, that you respected enough, for me anyways, that if they asked you a hard question or a bad question, like you'd give them grace for it, where you're like, okay, they asked that poorly or whatever. And then there were some that were antagonistic in the way that they asked, in that it was, the objective was for them was to, and I get they're trying to do their jobs, but was try to catch you in something or get you to say something that they could put in their story that was going to reflect negatively on you, like they were trying to trap you with something. And those ones were the ones where it's just like, you're going to give them a little bit less from an answer standpoint, and you're going to glaze over what you say versus giving maybe a truthful or an in-depth answer. But yeah, ultimately it's a give and take. Both sides, I think, in that exchange needed to handle it a little differently.
And guys, like, again, like I agree with all you guys, and I'm with Dusty. It's kind of like you see both sides of it, but here in Edmonton, it's always like if you're soft and you don't ask the questions to the stars of the team, it's like, oh, everybody's so soft. And then when you ask hard-hitting questions and maybe sometimes a question that's a little out there, you take heat for it too. So I find like there's no middle ground here. Like you either do you want the hard-hitting questions, do you want to really get in depth, or do you just want the softballs and the cliche answers, right? So listen, I agree with you guys. I think because the first question was just like, what happened to you guys? Just not good enough. And then the second question, obviously, I think we all agree it could have been worded differently and all that. And kudos to the reporter there. He put out a tweet saying that, it got the best of me as well. And hey, listen, we all get caught up in the moment and stuff. But at the end of the day, it's just like Dusty said, there's so much passion here that this thing blows up. And I say, look at the NFL. Go to cover the Lakers. Mike Harrington in Buffalo. That guy is not scared of anyone. Like he asked Reinhardt. Yeah. He asked Reinhardt last year in a scrum, like, did you give up? Did you give up? Straight up. And you should have seen the back and forth. It was like there's reporters like that. And I just don't know what fans want. Do you want soft questions or do you want the guys that are going to really dig deep?
I think Titch is usually actually pretty good at digging deep. Like Titch usually asks. I mean, he just obviously wasn't. But Titch is also a guy as a champion of the scalding hot takes, tournament of champions. He's a guy who can spit fire too. Like he's just that type of guy. And he hit him with that one, and he tweeted about it, and yeah, the fact that we're even talking about it just shows how much passion there is in this market for literally everything when it comes to the Oilers. All right, let's get to Keep It or Clip It. I got 4 questions in Keep It or Clip It today, boys. Let's start here. The schedule is Calgary, Ottawa, Vancouver, Calgary. The Oilers will win 5 of their next 7. Keep it or clip it.
Ooh, that's I'm gonna clip it. I think 4 of 7's realistic, more realistic than 5.
4 of 7's also good. I mean, that's not the end of the world. So you're right.
Yeah.
Better than losing 3 in a row.
I was going to clip it and say they go 4-2-1.
4-2-1. Yeah, that works. Math checks out. Hernan, what do you got?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to clip it with. I was going to clip it too. I'm with Gager. I think they win 4.
All right, so there we go. 3-4 wins out of 7. Question number 2, and I am fighting this right now in the Nielson backyard. Today's March 4th. My kids will still be skating on the outdoor rink on March 15th. Keep it or clip it.
I'm going to clip it. There's a better chance of me promoting the Titch Draisaitl octagon fight this summer than that happening, Dusty.
I'll clip it too. Man, it's so nice. I went for a run yesterday, boys. The first one of the year. The back's a little sore today, but it's beautiful out. So, Dusty, I hope, but I don't think so.
I'm going to keep it because we're going to get a second wave of winter. The dreaded second wave.
And that's what I'm hanging on for. I'm just waiting to get to that, Cass. I literally scheduled. Tammy texted me this morning. She goes, hey, good morning. Love you. Have a good day. And I'm like, yeah. I said, after breakfast, get the kids out for a skate. Marshall doesn't have kindergarten today. I said, our only window to skate is from about 10 to 11:15. I'm coming home before the podcast. I've got a tarp out there now. I've got a white tarp to reflect the sun. So it's tarped, and we aren't allowed to go on it. I'll clear off the tarp tonight. I'll flood it. They'll skate first thing in the morning tomorrow. Tarp it again. I am hanging on, boys.
Wow, that's you might be asked to the next outdoor game in Tahoe. Is that what you're trying to do, Dusty?
Hey, somebody's got to make sure they play that game at the right time. All right, question number 3. Go ahead, Hernan.
I was just gonna say your picture looked beautiful last night, though.
Doesn't it look good?
Oh, yeah. It looks so nice.
Oh, I just want to lay on it. It still looks so nice. All right, Nurse and Barry is better for this team right now than Nurse and Bear. Keep it or clip it.
I'll keep it. I said it yesterday. I didn't. I wanted to see Barry there. Like, they've had so much success with that duo there. Bear's fighting it a bit. He hasn't been the same since returning to the lineup. Why split up something that's working? Obviously, nothing worked in these 3 games, guys. So I understand why he wanted to go back to it. But going forward, I'd like to see Barry back with Nurse.
I'm going to keep it. I know I think I mentioned before the season got going here, I was hoping the Bear didn't have that. I know he got injured, but I think we're seeing a little bit of a sophomore slump with him. He hasn't been close to where he was last year. Hopefully he can, by the end of the year, he can get back to somewhat of that level, but yeah, keep it. Oh, Cass is muted.
Can't hear you.
Cash, if you could just if you could just use hand signals, that would be great.
I don't even know what keep it would be. Keep it.
Keep it.
Keep it. I'm going to keep it. Bear has not been nearly as good as clip it. He's not been nearly as good as he was last year. He has not taken that step forward, and the injury has hampered that even more. I still think he looks a step or two behind, and his decision making has not been what it was last year. So, I still think you want him in the lineup. You want him playing a lot, but as of right now, Barry has been pretty good recently. So I'd like to see him stay with Nurse.
Rick just tweeted at me and said, Dusty, tarp the rink and put straw on the tarp. You'll have ice until April. Plus you can get a pet goat for the kids and you can eat the straw afterwards. That would be great. I should get a goat for the backyard. That'd be awesome. What are the kids doing? They're all back playing with the goat. All right, final question, guys. The final episode of WandaVision tomorrow will include a cameo from a major Marvel character. Keep it or clip it?
Keep it.
Shut up for now.
I'm going to keep it. And you know why? Because we have to have some way that this ties into the Doctor Strange, the next Doctor Strange movie. It's got to tie in somehow. So you're going to have a major cameo. Even if it could be in the credits at the end, like the post scene,
yeah.
But you'll have one. Yeah.
Ooh, I just read some great Marvel news actually that got me all excited. I don't know if you guys watched Daredevil on Netflix. If you haven't, great series. But yeah, I'm going to keep it as well. Yeah, there'll be something. But the Daredevil's going to be in the next Spider-Man, the guy that played Daredevil. So that's really encouraging. And if you haven't seen that show, Hernan, you'd like that. That would be good. That's a good starter for you.
Hernan,
if you have ice,
he's not even paying attention anymore.
If you have ice, I hopefully the restrictions are lowered. Dusty, I'll come and I should let your kids take a couple shots on a real goalie and.
Yeah, that would be good.
How are you going to get Staylock out there? He's in quarantine.
Zing! Nice work, Cass. That was good, buddy. All right. I think it's going to be Doctor Strange, by the way. I think we're going to get a Doctor Strange sighting, which would be like the man himself, which would be pretty sweet. Cass, before we wrap up the episode, how are you spelling the nudie line? I want it to be the name for the episode.
N-U-D-Y.
Okay, say that again.
N-U-D-Y. Like the first two letters are huge,
yeah,
and then dry side of the D, and then Y for Yamamoto.
Nudie line. All right, perfect. There you go. Episode 122.
That's good.
The nudie line. Cass, you're starting to get a little too frisky for this podcast, buddy. Send Cass your nudie line picks.
I said when I was kicked off. All
right, that's going to do it for another episode of Two Guys and a Goalie, brought to you by CoolBet Canada. If you want to sign up and get into the wagering world, go to coolbet.com. All you have to do is, when you sign up, enter the code 2GUYS, number 2, word guys, all in caps. You get a 100% deposit bonus on your deposit up to $200. Boys, we'll have a Battle of Alberta to recap on Monday, which should be good. So enjoy the weekend, and we'll chat with you on Monday afternoon.
Bye, guys.